planting, I believe it's spin farming, people are using planting beds, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we use.
It doesn't have to be a raised bed, but
It's not a raised bed necessarily.
But you're thinking about where your crops are growing in terms of the beds that they're going to be in. So to add beds to your field, what you want to do is
Show them what's it.
okay. So I'm going to click on field number 1, which I added to my map. And you'll notice that there's a beds tab. When you click on the beds tab, you have the opportunity to add beds that are in that field. So let's pretend that I have 10 beds in this field. I'll go back. You can click on add beds right here or down here. And then enter in the number of beds. So let's say I have 10 beds. And then I can enter in the length, width, and planting width for these beds. So let's say that all of my beds are 25 feet. I have to select my unit of measurement. The center to center width, so not the planting.
3 feet for center to center.
So 3 feet for center to center. And the planting width?
2 feet.
2 feet. Is that our concept that we should talk about? Just the difference between center to center and edge to edge for planting width.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So you have the option to, there's 2 widths that you have to enter. It's the center to center and the edge to edge. I have a really good diagram to explain this, but it's on my computer. So let me, I can draw a picture somewhere to demonstrate the difference between these two. It's fine, PowerPoint.
We're kind of doing like turnkey, so we just tell them what we want.
What you want? Okay.
Yeah, and then they can go and
Sure.
you can explain overall. But
Okay.
we want people to do
The certain
2 feet. Next,
Okay.
they got to know that.
Let's see. More a map. Where do I draw?
You always got to put that on there. Or you got to keep it in the back of your mind.
Just when you're doing calculations, instead of having those values. I have such a good. It's going to be quicker, but send the file. Alright, that's not, we won't even go over it. Okay, so when you're doing the spin farming, the typical sort of our optimal dimensions are adding in 3 feet for your center by center width and 2 feet from your edge to edge width. If you set up your farm differently, that's okay. Essentially, your planting width is the width of the bed that you're putting your plantings into. So you can have multiple rows in a bed. Question?
So,
Okay.
one of the key points there is your aisle where you walk is 1 foot. If your center to center is 3 feet and your bed width is 2 feet, at least 1 foot for you to walk on.
Right.
Okay? So we're planning on 2 feet beds because it's easy to straddle and most of the machines will cover 2 feet. Especially the BCS machines. So we're working on 50 square feet beds altogether. Okay? Right. 25 feet long and 2 feet wide.
So the machine can get in there.
Well, we use best machines, but if we do use a tiller, which we will do, it becomes 2 feet. 30 inches is okay, but we've chosen 24 inches. Elliot Coleman used 30-inch beds, but we're using 24. So all our computations is based on, are y'all listening? All our computations and productivity calculations are based on a 2-foot bed. All that information is available by each plant, and I'm going to bring this up on the board through this screen. You already know what it is. It's been given to you. Also, we're going to load all the plants in from your planting plan. That's one of the things you may do later on. But we want him to teach you the basic stuff. Then we'll get into the specific stuff. So don't worry and don't have to guess. Question. Well, then she has to do things based on whatever she's established. So you already know what your stuff is, so none of this is a deal for you. But you might want to grow some vegetables. So they use this for vegetables. I saw the church. You have an address. Right. So this bed is Jim Blake, do you have an address on one bed in this field?
Yeah. Right. And so when you click on save and you add your beds,
did y'all use the address to find it?
You'll notice that those beds then get added to your place. So my beds tab, I have 1 through 10. These are individual beds. And if I just click open any of these beds, you can view the dimensions. Now, if your field is not a perfect square or rectangle, you can change the dimensions of each individual bed if you want by clicking on the little pencil icon, and then you can edit the dimensions of that bed.
So can I add it in your field?
You would have to you would go into your next field and create beds for that field.
Do y'all notice that they have the length, the width, and the planting width? We're doing 2 feet planting. Right, yeah. There you go. bed ones. It'll be 3 bed ones.
Well, when you add beds to a field, it numbers the beds 1 through however many you have.
That's how many beds.
The number of
How
them.
many 10 is the main shelf.
Okay, so the beds are probably, but they, in our minds, we can, physically we can, okay, here's a little best practice, folks. Maybe I should get into it right now. But when you think about your beds, make them unique numbers. You may have a field that have 10 beds and that'll be 1 to 10. But in reality, if you mark your beds, which is a lot of work,
Right.
people will know uniquely what bed to go to.
Like 1 through 10.
But some people probably don't even number their beds anyway, so.
Right.
Come on, can I offer a suggestion though too? You need to, the reason why you want to number everything is for accountability. You should be, if somebody has a problem, remember we talked about gap certifications and, and accountability, meaning if somebody were to get ill from your farm, they need to know to go right to the source of where it came from. So get into the habit of being unique in numbering your beds or your fields, because that's how you can trace your stuff and find out, oh, I think I got an issue right here. And you can trace and go right back to the source of where there may be a problem. Okay?
And forgive me for bringing that up because it's not pertinent to you learning. Ag square. It's just the best practice that you can implement, so it'll be easy for the director if each one of your beds have a unique number. So maybe in Ag square it'll be field X bed, whatever.
Where do you put in what's in that bed? What's in that bed?
Oh, there's places I don't know right off the top of my head. We'll get to that.
It's not in Ag Square.
Yeah, it's in Ag square. You can tell them what goes in your bed. What plants are in the bed. Bed plants.
How do you put the bed in there?
Guys, sometimes it takes effort to learn. Sometimes you got to redo things. The more you do it, the better you get, okay? There's no penalty when you learn it right. Sometimes the best way to learn is to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Right. So when you got this Ag square going, you got some workers, you can print out task lists. Okay? Okay.
So whether it's accurate, right? Like they pulled that from the Google.
Some other underground or something.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, all right. So while the rest of us continue mapping our fields, we're gonna switch gears and start to look at crop planning. So right now we've been primarily working in the places tool, and now when you've set up your field and added some beds, if you want to click on the crops tool.
crops. I guess this may be where you can put your beds. I don't know. Yeah, spinach, motherfucker. Oh, okay. What these
Okay, I'm gonna switch gears to talk about creating crops and plantings. What's someone growing on their farm a crop? Green peppers. So when you come into the crops plan, this is where you can add your crops and your plantings. So we distinguish in the software between crops and plantings. Think of crops as sort of a folder where you're storing all your different plantings. So if you're growing peppers, that's your crop.
Hang on, people. We have a hard time keeping everybody focused. Trying to get contemporary. Maybe write down what you're doing and then go back to it. Okay, writing's important. I'm so old, I can't remember none unless I write it down. So writing really helps you figure things out. So, but it's important to pay attention when the new subject is being introduced. So stop whatever you're doing and pay attention so you can get what's going. Because there's a lot more work if we do it. Somebody comes after you could have got it from the first time. Please focus on our instruction.
So we're here in the crop section of Ag Square. And this is where you're essentially building your crop plan for the season, for the year. So what does a crop plan consist of? You guys have worked a little bit on crop plans.
Crop plan, the dates that you're planting.
The dates that you're planting.
Sowing date, first harvest date,
Right.
rows, beds, yields,
Great.
lots of.
Sure. So you have what you're planting, and then the details about what you're planting, the who, the what, where, when of your planting. So where it's going on your farm, how much of it, when you're planting the crops tool so that then we can track those crops as the season goes on. And so we distinguish between crops and plantings for the sake really of organization. So an example of a crop was pepper. Now what would be a planting of a pepper? It would be a type of variety. So let's say you're growing, what's a variety of peppers that goes well here that people grow?
You got multicolored sweet pepper, bell pepper, green pepper,
Right.
yellow.
California Wonder.
California Wonder is a bell pepper, correct?
Right.
So that's a variety. So that would be your planting of your pepper crop. And so what I'm going to do now is just, you can watch, is I'm going to create my pepper crop and then my pepper planting. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add a crop.
Can you let them all get coordinated with you?
Sure. For people not.
Okay, just take a note of where you are, and everybody go to the, what is that called, dashboard or something?
The crops tool, there's a crop icon.
Okay, why don't you close this, please?
I write that.
Okay,
It's a bad
the
picture. I
X.
don't want to do that. Don't do that.
You do that. Hit the X. Answer the clock.
Okay, everyone
Add
caught up?
crop. Put that.
So we're going to click on add a crop.
Add crop.
And this is the form where you can enter in your crop name. So we're going to use peppers as an example. So we're going to type in pepper. Peppers.
Try to stick with whatever the teachers do. Yeah.
And then you see here that there is a window of icons.
Now you learn.
And you can scroll down. This is organized alphabetically, so we have some pictures of apples. Then we move on to beans. And so pepper, P, is going to be towards the bottom. And we have an icon for just about everything, unless you're growing something really obscure. And here we have some peppers. So we'll pick, I don't know, this yellow pepper icon. Then we can put in a description. Again, this form is not required, but if you want to say, grown every year, it's really up to you what you want to put in here. It's really not that important unless you want to be keeping track of some additional information about your crop. If your crop has any other beneficial functions, you can select that here. Again, this is not required. I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. So I'm saving my crop name and this very brief description and also the image. But when I click Save, you can see that pepper has been added to my account. So if everyone wants to get to that point, looks like people are... Sure, you can say that. It's the same process. So has everyone created a pepper crop? Or they've seen how to do it? So now we're going to grow a certain planting of this crop, a certain variety, which was going to be... what was the name of the variety we were going to grow? California. So now I've clicked on my pepper crop, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Add a New Planting within the pepper crop. So I click Add a New Planting, and you can see it knows that I'm adding a planting to my pepper.
Now, where would you guys get that information from?
Crop planting.
From your crop planning spreadsheet, right?
Yes.
Tells you the variety of crop.
Or you get it off the seed packet.
Right. So I'm going to... So maybe can do, well, anyway, yeah, get it off your seed packet. You can get it off the website where you're ordering your seeds.
I get mine off of Johnny's because that's where we buy most of our seeds. Instead of doing the icon, I usually clip on the picture.
So the variety of the pepper is California. Wonder. Again, I can put a description here. This is just a free text field. You can add in anything that's useful for you. And then the only other thing you need to fill out in this form is where this planting will reside. And this is important, so let's pay attention here. You have three options. It can be an in-ground planting, a container planting, or a container then in-ground planting. So what do these mean? In-ground planting is a planting that you sow directly into the field, into the ground. So what do you sow directly here, typically? Onions.
Carrots. Onion.
Sure. I don't know, corn?
We don't do corn.
You don't do corn? So, and certain plantings can be both, depending on when you're planting them. A container planting is a planting that it spends its whole life in a container. So if you were growing flowers or starts that you're going to sell at the farmer's market, you were going to sell, a potted plant at the farmer's market, that would be a container planting. Or if, you're going to keep your tomatoes, you're never going to transplant them out to the ground, but you're going to grow them in big pots. That would be a container planting. Finally, we have containers then in ground, and that's, of course, anything that you start indoors in a container and then transplant outside. Typically, at least in Oregon, that's how we grow peppers because their season's not long enough to just sow them directly. Is that true here for the most part? Okay, so you're going to plant your pepper seed in a container and then transfer it out to the ground, so it's going to be a container then in ground planting. Does everyone understand those three concepts?
So what are we going to be using most? These in the first two plants. We're going to direct seed in the ground, right? We have the leafy green crops and the root crops. All those are direct seeding.
Okay.
So that's what we are doing, starting, and you can do whatever you choose, but that's what we say. If you got a greenhouse, you can do it.
And so we'll do another planting of just a root crop that goes directly in ground. So I'm going to click containers then in ground. And these other forms here are about layout, where you can say if you're going to be growing in beds or not, if you're going to be growing in rows, which you probably will be for growing vegetables. And then the planting material, of course, for growing peppers from seed. But if you're growing garlic, like Kamal, you might be planting, the clove. This information, again, is not required. It's only just focus on the entry boxes that are in green for now. I'm going to click Save and Continue. And it brings me to a second form. And this form is where you start to enter in the dates of your pepper planting. So now you're really planning out, when things are going to be planted on your farm. So your initial sowing date, remember, is going to be the time you're sowing your seed into the container. Because we're starting our peppers in containers. So what's a good sowing date in this part of the country for peppers? Sometime early, huh?
After Mother's Day.
April. So we'll say...
In the ground.
Oh, sorry. So how about in the container?
April. March.
We'll say March 1st. So if I click on this form...
In the greenhouse.
I can enter in the... it brings up this calendar, and I can enter in March 1st for my first sowing date. Let's say your peppers are going to be in containers for about 30 days. Okay. What's really nice about this form is that it does the math for you. So if you look at your seed packet, it says it's going to be 30 days before you can transplant outside. can enter in 30, and it calculates your first transplant date for you, which is the 31st of March. Then you're going to transplant your peppers outside, and once you transplant them, how long until they're mature? 60 days. Again, this is going to depend on what it is that you're growing. This information is usually on the seed packet. So I'll enter in 60 days, and that tells me that my begin harvest date is May 30th. So what you can see here is that you can calculate out when you can expect to harvest something based on its sowing date. And this does the calculations for you. Let's pretend that maybe you know that you want to have peppers available on a certain date. Let's say June 15th is your goal to have peppers harvested. You can start by entering in your begin harvest date and working backwards. So here you can see this date's maturity is no longer 60 days. I want to calculate the date backwards based on my harvest date. So I can calculate the date backwards. It gives me my new first transplant date. Calculate the date backwards, and it gives me my new sowing date. So you can see there's a lot of power here for you to plan your planting dates.
You use left click on that?
Just a left click, yeah. So we'll go, and then here, if you want to enter in a harvest duration, of course this isn't required, but maybe you expect to harvest your peppers for 20 days, 20 days. It'll give you your end harvest date. And when you click save and exit, you start to build your plan for this planting. So you have your California Wonder, and you look down and you have its initial sowing date, the transplant date, and then your begin harvest date laid out for here as a record for you to look at. So that's creating one type of planting for your peppers. Question?
Yeah, I can't get past the part when I went to do planting, and then I'm going to click save and continue. This is
Okay, so you need to select your pepper. So Devon pepper, or just start typing. There it is. So you just select that. Okay, and then will you be planting in just containers? Save. Now you can enter your dates. Alright, let's like. You can, if you know your end harvest, you can put it in or you can leave it. A lot of times people, the only time you really put in an end harvest is when you either going to follow it or then something else and you want to get that new plant. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and create another crop and planting, for example. Yeah, that's what it's. Yeah.
How's it looking, folks?
All right, we're going to create one more crop of planting, and then we'll go on a little break so we can get some fresh air. There's a lot of screen time on that. So I'm going to go through and.
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, I want to add sugar.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click another crop. What's a storage crop or that we're growing? Beets. Beets. Beets are great crops. They're pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and add in beet as my crop name. You can see I have an image of a beet. I'm going to click save. So I've created my beet crop again, and now I want to go through and add a planting to my beet crop. What's a beet variety here? Red Ace, Chioggia. We'll do what's up?
Detroit Red.
I'll do Early Wonder.
Early
Wonder beets. We have Wonder peppers and Wonder beets. So where is our
Golden Blood.
planting going to reside? my beats in beds, in rows, and of course from seed, and click save and continue. So beets, when is the ground warm enough to plant beets?
April 28th.
April 28th. Is that the case this year?
Yeah, that's when it starts.
All right. We'll go with April 28th. So it's when we're putting our beets in the ground. And when you look at the back of your seed packet, how many days to maturity for beets? 45. Depends on the variety, but anywhere from 30 to 48.
All that information is given, right? Because we have our crop plans and.
Yeah, it's on crop plan A. It's on crop plan A.
So days of maturity is 48.
Yep.
And that gives you, that means you should be harvesting beets by the 15th of June. So I'm not going to put in a harvest duration. It's not required. I'll click save and exit. And we've gone ahead now and created our early wonder beet planting. That's going to be sown on the 28th of April. Harvested on the 15th of June. So that's the basic process of entering in your planting, which is the variety of a crop you're growing, and the dates of that planting. Now there's a lot of other information we can enter in, such as the number of seeds we're planting, where that planting is going to be going, and the layout and spacing of that planting in a bed, but that's for after our break. So. Sure. So do you manage them in the same way? Oh yeah, just make, I would create one, you've already created a variety of blueberries. That's great. That's putting water in there. This is really good because, every year you make sure to get your blueberries. Prune them or spray them or weed them. Okay. Okay. Do you mulch or? So now that you've created your garden, you can start to rotate your schedule. You can stay on track of everything you're doing. We'll talk about that. So you would have to, if you're in a drought, you would have to sort of create a new planting called and keep track of this. So you can just create a new planting, call it plan, and then you can assign that to that new location and have different schedules, different kind of stuff. So there's different needs in your You guys are having so much fun, you don't want to take a break? Or?
Right. Okay, everybody, get up and shake a leg. Gotta force you off the system. Rotate your eyeballs, shake your arms and limbs. This is big time. All right. Shake it all off. Please trust me, you want to go now to get up for 10 minutes and run. So we can hold you for another hour and a half for lunch. So please get up and move around. Thank you.